Thank you for joining us today here on Winging It, Unscripted Conversations with the Hot Springs community, broadcasting from National Park College. The intent of this NPC podcast is to have informal conversations with different community members as a way of understanding their work in our region and highlighting their connection with the college. Hello, listeners. I'm your host, Wade Derden, president of National Park College. I'm glad you're joining me today because I have a guest who's very special to this college, Mrs. Joyce Craft. For those of you who do not know, Mrs. Craft recently retired from the National Park College Board of Trustees after over 20 years of service. Mrs. Craft has been a longtime educator in Hot Springs, and her career culminated in service as a superintendent of Hot Springs School District. Thank you for being here with me, Mrs. Craft.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Dirt.
Well, let's jump right in. I definitely want to talk with you about your experiences in education here in Hot Springs and your service to the college, but I think first we have to discuss your most recent award as Remarkable Woman of Arkansas. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about the award, how you received it, and what it means to be a remarkable woman of Arkansas.
All right, Dr. Durden. It's my pleasure to tell you about the Remarkable Woman for Central Arkansas because it was a complete surprise. I had no idea. And this is the first time ever in my life that I was surprised with an award that I didn't have to do anything.
Right.
Just be me.
Just be you.
Just be me. And so I'll give you some details, and I hope I don't go too long with my explanation. Please. One of the ladies from the Hot Springs Leadership Alliance, which formed, I think, about 2 years ago, one of them called me. Her name is Sarah Hutzel, who works for Arvest Bank. She called and she said, Mrs. Craft, we want to take you to lunch. Now, that was the first surprise. So I said, Sarah, why do you want to take me to lunch? So I was thinking all along they want to set me up to ask me to do something. So she said, it's just 2 or 3 of us, and we just want to show you our appreciation. I said, okay, all right. Now, we need to know within 2 or 3 days before Friday. I said, okay. And so I agreed to go to lunch. And so the lunch was at the Waters Hotel. So when I get there and enter, I see about 15 women around the table. And I was thinking to myself, what happened to the 2 or 3?
Right.
So I sat down and began to talk, and they were asking me questions. Little did I know they were trying to delay for the newscaster and the cameras to come in.
Right.
And so we were talking around the table, and all of a sudden, here comes this crew in from KARK News with camera flashing. They were walking in. I said, where are they going? And they came where I was sitting with cameras right in my face. I said, what is this? They said, you won the Remarkable Woman for Central Arkansas, and you won $1,000 for a charitable organization of your choice. Had these bouquet of flowers, cameras in my face shining. And I'm saying, what is this? What is she talking about? And I was completely stunned. And I was trying to digest as well as trying to look professional because I knew cameras in my face, it was going to be on TV.
It's a little intimidating.
So needless to say, it caught me totally off guard. I was stunned. And after that initial shock, the ladies, Hot Springs Women's Leadership Alliance, presented me with a bouquet of flowers also. And so I said, who nominated me? Mm-hmm. Sarah was sitting at the end of the table by me. I did. I said, Sarah, why did you do that? She said, because you deserve it. I said, what? The incredible part about that is I've only known Sarah since that organization developed.
Right.
About 2 years ago. And for her to write that, it was just unbelievable.
Right.
I am amazingly blessed by that organization because had it not been for them, I never would have known Sarah. And then she wouldn't have written the nomination, and I wouldn't have gotten that. But back to the newscaster, she said, we had 200 nominations, And out of those 200 nominations, you won. And it was still unbelievable what she was talking about.
What an honor.
It was a humbling experience for me, and it's still unbelievable.
So they sent you to Los Angeles.
They sent me to Los Angeles. They sent me to Hollywood.
To Hollywood, eh?
Yeah, I went to Hollywood. And to be in the room with 125 other remarkable women.
Wow.
The Next Star group said that they had 12,000 applications for remarkable women from across the country. And we, the 125, were in that room. And they were just like I was. How did I get here? But to hear their stories about how they are making an impact in their communities. We had one lady there who was 94 years old. And just ordinary women doing extraordinary things based on an idea that they had and the resilience that they kept on with that idea.
Right.
And here we are. One of the women had been working with her project 36 years. Wow. And now she's a remarkable woman. Her project was dementia with disabilities, people who had disabilities and dementia.
Right.
And this was back in 1989 when she came up with that idea. So you never know where your idea might take you if you are persistent with that.
Right.
And so we had quite a bit of activities. We were on our way to Warner Brothers to see the sets and the stage. And I thought this was quite funny, but it wasn't funny in a way. My cell phone went off with an alert, as they do here in Arkansas, about a tornado warning.
Right.
But this was a warning about an earthquake.
Oh.
So it said, earthquake detected. Earthquake. I heard a few other phones go off with the alert. Right. And the tour guide didn't seem to be concerned about the alert. I said, let me read this alert. And it said, drop, cover, and hold on.
Oh, my gosh.
Protect yourself. And they called it a shake alert. But anyway, I didn't feel anything, but there was an earthquake. So that was quite interesting. Then we were on the Jennifer Hudson show.
Oh, really? I didn't know you were on the Jennifer Hudson show.
Jennifer Hudson show, and we went through the Spirit Tunnel.
All right.
And it was amazing.
How many days were you there?
I arrived Sunday morning about 12:30 until Tuesday morning. So it was nonstop.
So it was very busy, yes.
Oh, very busy. I wish we had more time to talk to the women and about their projects, because you wanted to get around and talk to everybody about their projects. But it was an amazing experience to know that 125 women in the same room, different age groups, different nationalities, would come together in one room and had one idea and made a tremendous impact in their community and still making that impact. Right. So that gives you the energy to go back to want to do more in your community to make a difference.
Well, that's great. What a great honor.
Well, thank you.
No, we're all proud of you. Well, I want to turn the clock back a bit. You were born here in Arkansas, and as I recall, you were born in Cotton Plant, which
That's correct.
My father's birthplace was Cotton Plant. How did you come from Cotton Plant to Hot Springs, and what's the history of that? When was that?
Yeah, I was raised in Cotton Plant, Arkansas. You would consider it the Delta area.
Yes. On
a farm. My brothers and sisters, we picked and chopped cotton a long time ago on the family farm. And my mother and father instilled in us the work ethics and also to respect and treat all people the same. And so from that, graduated high school, went to college. At that time, the college was called AM&N, and now it's the University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff.
Right.
Graduated from there in 3.5 years, cum laude.
All right.
Yeah. And
I wouldn't expect anything less.
And so I was married. My husband and I had signed contracts to teach in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh, my goodness.
And the day before graduation, he had a car accident. And he was in the hospital 2 months and 9 days.
Oh, goodness.
So we had to resign from our position as teachers in Milwaukee.
Okay.
So I was already working in the comptroller's office on campus. And one of his friends had gotten a job in Hot Springs teaching industrial arts. Then he resigned from the job in Hot Springs and got a job in Oklahoma. And he told my husband about the job. But my husband was on crutches. And it was at a time just before school was to open.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband came to Hot Springs and interviewed. And of course, he got hired because they didn't have anybody at the last minute with his crutches. And so we came to Hot Springs, and I didn't have a job. And so I went to the employment office to find me a job.
Right.
And they told me to go to Weyerhaeuser Company because they couldn't find qualified secretaries. And I had a business degree. And so I went there, and I got hired. So I worked there, and that's how we got to Hot Springs. If I go any further in my details, I'd take up this whole time.
Yeah.
Telling you all about that. So, but that's how we got to Hot Springs.
But then you took a teaching job eventually.
I did. I sure did. And I took a teaching job, and it was a grant position. And the grant phased out.
Right.
So I didn't have a job. So I went back to Weyerhaeuser Company. They rehired me in the same department, which was the computer processing department. And at that time, they had key punch machines and the big mainframe machines, and they were COBOL programming.
Right.
And so while I was there, I was a secretary, but I had some free time, and I would go back to the computer department and learn how to key punch and learn a little bit about the COBOL training. So that was a good time, and probably if I had been aware of the business part of Weyerhaeuser Company, I might have stayed longer. But my desire was to always teach school.
Right.
That's all I ever wanted to do was teach school. So from there, I went back to the district and taught, I think, maybe 2 or 3 years, and here we go again. Without a job.
Oh, gosh.
And so my friend was at the rehab center, and she told me they had a job, teaching disabled students, And so I taught typing to disabled students.
Okay.
And then a friend of mine called and said there was a position with the Hot Springs School District, the high school, teaching English. Well, I had a minor in English. And so I went to the high school and interviewed for the job, and I got the job. And one question they asked me, are you sure you could discipline the students? Because you're mighty little. And I said, yeah, I think I can handle them. And so I got that job at the high school. And I was working in the English department. But I always wanted to teach business. And so from the English department, I was teaching regular English. Then they decided that for me to teach advanced English. And at that time, you could get credit from the University of Arkansas for that course. After that, the principal came to me and said, we got a position open in the business department. It's easier for me to find someone in the English department than it is for the business department. So I said, okay. So when I go over there, they had basic programming. I said, basic programming? Okay. All right, now I need to go back to school. So that summer, I went to University of Arkansas in Little Rock the entire summer. Got trained in teaching basic programming. And a friend of mine went with me because she didn't want to go by herself. And she taught an English course, so she enrolled in an English class. And so I taught basic programming. I had 2 classes, 10 computers with 20 kids in each class.
Oh, goodness.
So they had to share computers. The next year, I got a full classroom set of computers, and I had 5 classes of
Oh, my gosh. It
basic programming.
grew fast.
Yeah, it grew fast. And then a Carnegie grant came across, and I applied for that, and that was to teach teachers how to use the computers.
Right.
And so I wrote that grant, and we got it, and it paid the teachers to take the course. And our district was invited to Dallas, Texas to receive the award. So from teaching that course, it came across my desk. They had a multi-centered competency-based administrators program from the University of Arkansas. And what they would select a cohort of vocational teachers from across the state of Arkansas, and it was a 2-year training program.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would go in the summertime with your cohort, and then during the year, you'd have to ask your district to release you for a week or so for you to meet with them. And so I received that certification. Well, that certified me almost like an administrator. And so the assistant principal became available at the high school. I applied for that job. At that time, women of color weren't in the administrative position of assistant principal. So I applied for the position. I got the position. And we went to the school board. One of the school board members said, now, that is what happens with all of our good teachers. They take them out of the classroom and make them an administrator.
Right. How long were you at the school district by that time? I mean, how long had you been teaching by the time you got into administration?
Maybe 12 years.
12 years, okay. I mean, so you put in your time in the classroom.
About 12 years, right. But you think back on that and you think, well, why not make me an administrator? Why confine me to the classroom? Right. Why not let me move up?
So I have a question for you. Your career in a lot of ways is the ideal. You begin as a classroom teacher, you work your way up, you become an administrator, eventually you're in the superintendent position. So there's a lot of young educators out there who want to follow that path. What kind of advice do you give to someone looking to sort of follow that same route?
Well, Dr. Derden, that's a good question, because some people have goals. They set out on a trajectory. I'm going to do this, I'm going to move here, I'm going to move up. But that wasn't my idea. Every 3 or 4 years, I pivoted to do another job, which was equipping me to get to the superintendent's position without me even knowing it. Right. And after I became assistant principal, I decided I'm going to go back to school, make sure I get my certification. I already had one, but make sure I get another certification in secondary principal and superintendency. Right. One of the teachers said, Joyce, why don't you get your curriculum specialist? Since you have these certifications, it won't take you very long. So I got that. I went to Henderson State University because while at the rehab, they had a program where you could take one course and they'd pay for it. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the counselors at the rehab were taking the courses to become certified as a counselor. And so I got with them. And so I went to Henderson and received my master's degree in secondary counseling. So I had certifications in secondary counseling, K-12 curriculum specialist, secondary principal, and superintendent, as well as my undergraduate degree in those commercial subjects and English. And I would tell the person who is trying to move up to make sure they stay humble. That's number one.
Right.
And make sure they be themselves and use their voices. Use your own voice. You be you. And take all the training that you can take. And when the door of opportunity opens, you step in it. And you don't lightly step in it. You step in it boldly and courageously because you can do the job. And always have mentors, someone who could help me on the way. Right. And you have to be open to listen. You have to be adaptable, flexible, all of those things.
Right.
And you have to respect each other's opinion, no matter who it is. Mm-hmm. With our superintendent, I wanted to make sure that all students, regardless of where they came from, would have the same opportunity as everyone else. Mm-hmm. We were putting in the iPads at that time. That was kind of a new technology.
Right.
And you may not be on the same level as the advanced students, but you should have access to that iPad. Mm-hmm. And you should have access to everything else that's available to make you successful, because you can if given the opportunity to do so. And so I want to make sure we had that relationship with the parents and the teachers and that community. And a motto I had, this is another thing I would tell young people who are wanting to go into administration. My motto was, do your job and be a difference maker.
Right.
So in other words, if you work hard at the job that you've been assigned, you won't have to worry about somebody else noticing your capabilities, because they will.
Right.
That was my motto: do your job and be a difference maker in somebody's life.
Yeah. All that's good advice. I can't argue with any of it. I feel like, my own career path is the same way. I certainly wouldn't have expected to be in the seat I'm in now. It just kind of happened, taking the opportunities
Exactly.
when they arose and being prepared.
That's right.
Yeah.
Being prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want anybody to give you anything.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
No.
So I want to switch gears. You have served on the NPC Board of Trustees, and I'm wondering two questions, really. I mean, you were in K-12. How did you wind up on the NPC Board of Trustees?
I'm glad you asked that question. Mr. Don Harris is a longtime board member and friend.
Yep.
Asked me about being on the board probably in the year 2000. And so I said, okay. And he said, you'd have to get these signatures in order to be on the ballot.
Right.
And I won, and I didn't have any opposition the entire time I served on the board. But the reason I served on the board was to have that connection between the board and the school district the students.
Right. Sure.
And so
makes sense.
To have the influence and to be able to tell the students or the counselor or parent about the opportunities that the college offered. And also I had had the opportunity before becoming on the board to teach a course here at the college.
I didn't know you taught here. That's
I taught here at the college. And by serving under Dr. Spencer, Dr. Carter, and Dr. Hogan, and then you, under those leaderships, I could see how the college was evolving each time into where it is now. So I'm a very proud person.
Well, that was sort of my second question is, in your time on the board, how has the college changed?
Tremendously. It has evolved to where it is, almost like receiving that award that I couldn't imagine where it is now. With the Dogwood Hall, the housing, with the commons, and with the health sciences. Yeah, I was thinking as I was coming out here, I said, I don't know if I'll share this or not, but I think I will. And while serving on the board, I was secretary. And when we decided to build the commons, you had to sign these bond papers.
Right.
And so, as secretary, as well as the president. So I had to sign these papers, and I think that cost about $14-15 million.
That's right.
And I had to sign my signature. I thought about that. A little person coming from Cotton Plant, Arkansas.
Right.
Signing to build the student commons area that would impact students here at NPC, the staff, and the community for years to come.
Yeah, that's right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty neat, huh?
Hey, very excellent.
Well, I want to ask you one more question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I guess in your own words, why is National Park College important to our city and our county and our region?
National Park College is a lifeline to so many people. It's a second chance. And in my board comments, I would say NPC can bring a person from illiterate to a 2-year degree or a skills area, workforce, 4-year degree. That's what NPC can do if people would access NPC. It's an economic engine, and I don't think perhaps some people in our community realize how important it is for this community, National Park College.
The return on investment that we always talk about is, for the community, really it's a $6 return for every dollar they invest in the college. And for a student, it's $18 return for every dollar they invest in the college. So it's a good investment. You're right.
It's a good investment. As chairperson of the board, I had the opportunity to pass out certificates. We were passing out certificates, GED, and the skills area certificates, 2-year degree, some who were going on to your 4-year degree, and how proud those students were. You could just see it in their faces. That's what NPC means to this community. And so I'm overjoyed to have been on the board and to see NPC, how hard the staff, students, and its administration work to provide opportunities for students. If you want to succeed, come to NPC, and you can.
Well, thank you for being here today, Mrs. Craft. I always enjoy our conversations so much, and I appreciate you taking the time today.
Well, thank you, Dr. Derden, for having me. NPC has a special place in my heart, and education is the core of my spirit. So
I know. Well, I really appreciate it. I know you have a busy schedule. I mean, all these things going on, LA and such. So thank you for taking time out today to be with us here on the Winging It podcast.
All right.
Listeners, thank you again. New episodes are released monthly. And until next time, remember that there is a place for you at National Park College.